informal idea, no PowerPoint, no videos.
No issue, sir.
I was intrigued by the idea that it is a personality or professional development. So I thought
Workshop.
it would be an informal idea.
So it's totally
You can,
your control, sir.
you can go ahead, sir.
So just to the students, welcome all of you to today's personality development workshop on alternative dispute resolution. We have with us Mr. P. Bayola Kiran, who is an assistant professor with Damodaram Sanjeevaya National Law University right now. Sir graduated from Damodaram Sanjeevaya National Law University, and he has been awarded with a gold medal for being the best outgoing student. And he has also secured 6 gold medals in constitutional law, corporate laws, criminal laws, labor laws, law of banking and history. Sir then pursued his master's in business laws from Andhra University, secured first class there as well. Sir cleared UGC NET in December 2015 itself and has completed PG diploma in social exclusion and inclusive policy from Andhra University. Sir has presented papers in a few seminars and has publications in leading journals too. His area of interest are sports law, corporate law, criminal law, constitutional law, jurisprudence, and I'm sure that ADR is also part of it. Before joining DSNLU, he was working as an assistant professor with School of Law, Geetam University, Vishakhapatnam. Sir, I won't take much of your time. The stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. I was scared to include ADR in my area of interest because barring few sessions that I take for master student on infrastructure related arbitrations and investment arbitrations, I haven't taught that paper at length. So it can be considered maybe arbitration, but mediation and negotiation, I trained people for competitions, but haven't taught. So that's why I was scared to include it as a part of my areas of interest. So these are all people who are studying arbitration is what I was told.
Yes, sir, they are studying. All of these are the students of 5th semesters, and they are right now studying the ADR too. And I think most of them have almost like they are done with the ADR subject for all the 4 units are almost done. So
I
they will
presume,
have a fair idea.
yeah, I presume that they are also done with procedural laws. So what I wanted to talk about today is the idea of seat and venue. I just
So
want to
definitely, sir.
juxtapose how seat and venue can make things easier or tougher. So thank you so much, sir. I'll start the idea. So presuming that all the students are people who had graduated from different schools all over the country, so they would have seen playgrounds, they would have played sport. So let's take a very simple example. Let's take maybe students of class 12. 2 or 3 sections are there. So there are sports events that are scheduled. So each section took some kind of a responsibility to ensure that the sports events that are there, because this will be the last for them in their schooling. So they took a responsibility. Everybody took pride in it. So 2 sections, sections A and B, were tasked with arranging things that are necessary for cricket tournament, and at the same time arranging for trophies, empires, and every other thing. So section A said that we'll arrange things that are there here. So we talk about the venue, getting the ground ready. So they spoke of all those. Section B took the responsibility of getting the empires, or wherever the kit is necessary, maybe flags, banners, and all those ideas. So the responsibility was equally divided. One looking at the internal idea, one looking at the external idea. So the school had given the physical director sort of a supervision on these 2 sections and their work. So everything was going well. Suddenly, on the day of the first match of the tournament, one umpire did not turn up. Now, whose responsibility is it to arrange for umpires? Can somebody tell me? Section A or section B? Anyone? Whose responsibility is it to arrange for umpires? Section B or section A? Am I audible?
You are, sir. You are.
Yeah, okay. So seems like people are not into cricket. So I'll just finish this illustration as much quickly as possible. We'll try to take something else. So since empires are people who want to be somebody who's external objective, so it's section B's responsibility to get it. Now, sort of a dispute started between section A and section B. So section A started saying that, boss, you should have got us the empire. Now B started saying, you should have arranged for things properly. Why would some empire, leave at the last? You were not taking care of them when we had given you the contact number. You should have arranged for pickup and all of. So there were claims and counterclaims. Now this, we understand how things happen in school, so emotions may go beyond. So it was almost a sort of a section war that is happening. So the physical director had to intervene. Now, can the students question the physical director when he is asking or she is asking them to stop? Can they say that, boss, you don't have anything to do with here. It is our match, our school. You're just somebody who's there to sit for supervision. You were never there. You can't ask. You can't come today and ask us things. That's not the case, right? At least as long as we are in school, we'll definitely respect our teachers, and particularly the physical director or the physical education teacher, because he is the one or she is the one who arranges for sports facilities. So that being the scenario, whenever there is that person to supervise, when there is a dispute, how should you sit and decide, or what is the way out? So far that goes out wonderful. Now let's take this example to two big corporates. Let's say I run a company which manufactures bottles, and Mr. X runs a company which supplies raw materials, right? So we understand that the lockdown is slowly being eased out, and we are proceeding towards the normal. So I, with the consultation of my business development team, understood that we have to scale up production because the schools are reopening. The parents may buy more bottles, so the sales will increase. So I want the raw materials to suit my business development plans, isn't it? Or can I produce bottles without enough raw materials? Or should I close the business and say that, boss, no water bottles? Anyone? Like I said, this is an informal idea. I just wanted to, share few things. That's all, nothing more than that. I wanted to scale up my production. I want more water bottles to be made. Should I require more raw materials? Yes, no. Presuming that somebody would say no, I'm very sorry that, if I want to make something, I would need raw material. So I will only take the S idea for this scenario. So I would proceed to order for more. Now, if Mr. X or the company that Mr. X works for cannot supply raw materials as per the agreements, will there be a dispute? Or if they supply and I don't pay, will there be a dispute? Yes, no. So let's say you run a company, you give something to people, you sell raw materials and they are not paying. Will you be okay with it? I can see a few names here. Let's should I call names? Should we make it formal? Come on, people.
So they're just not in the habit of answering in the online mode now. So maybe that's why.
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. And I just wanted to make it interactive, nothing more. I don't want to bore them with everything that I know, or I just don't want to dump whatever I'm prepared on their brains. That's all. Nothing more than that. So I'll change my mode then. So presuming that raw materials were supplied and payment is not made, the other company run by X, or which in which X works, would like to sue me. Now, will it be a civil suit or a criminal case if I don't pay as per the contract? From our understanding of basics of law, it will be a civil suit. Now, where can we file a suit? So it simply takes us to CPC 1908. Part 1, talking about suits in general, particularly jurisdiction of courts, maybe section 9 to section 25, talk about the issue res judicata, or when can a suit not be filed. Then you have 15 to 20, which talk about jurisdiction. So place where one party resides, place where the cause of action arose. So you have different things that would come up. Or for that matter, section 16 refers to subject matter, place where the subject matter is situated. Now, let's presume that the bottle manufacturing company that I spoke of also has an arbitration clause included in the raw material supply agreement. Now, if there is this raw material supply agreement, if at all one, and which includes an arbitration clause, can I file a suit in a civil court, or can a suit be filed against me in a civil court for repayment of money according to the agreement and the raw materials that are supplied? Presumably, it is not the case, or even if a suit is filed, the court would ask the parties to go ahead with arbitration because there is a clause, right? So far we are okay with, there is an avenue to get our problems sorted. Maybe we can find the PD or the physical education teacher where there is default on one side, right? Section B should have arranged for the umpire, but one umpire is not coming. So there was a dispute between A and B. Section B is accusing Section A something, Section A is accusing Section B of something. So everybody is saying, I did my job, you didn't do it. Or in the second example, my company had got raw materials from company X, but company X says, I'm not paying them. So they wanna file a suit. Now, once the dispute resolution starts, you have a lot of other issues that can come up. Particularly, you may need interim measures. For example, I am running the bottle manufacturing company and I had amped up production considering that sale would be better, right? Now I understood that there can be third wave, and I made a what should I say, a practical decision and sold my company to somebody else, or sold bottling unit to somebody else. Now, if the bottling unit is sold, the raw materials unit will also be sold. So X, which had actually sent raw materials to me, may be in a very different position. There is a third party coming in here. So can company X get some interim relief, which may preclude me from stopping the sale, or which may get an credit being noted in the business sale agreement or business transfer agreement. So you would need somebody to say so. So for these interim reliefs, and also once the decision has been finally given by the arbitration tribunal, you want it to be executed, right? So for that also you would need court. So the Arbitration and Conciliation Act defines court in section 2 1 subsection E to mean something like this. It has two parts, 2(1)(e) subclause 1, subclause 2. So let's talk about subclause 1. In the case of arbitration other than international commercial arbitration, the principal civil court of original jurisdiction in a district and includes a high court in exercise of its ordinary original civil jurisdiction having jurisdiction to decide questions forming the subject matter of arbitration if the same had been the subject matter of a suit but does not include any civil court of a grade inferior to such principal civil court or any court of small causes. So a court has been defined here. So far, so good. But the problem that comes in is if the principal had given responsibility to the physical director, wonderful. But no teacher was given a responsibility to oversee things, or you were working, this is something that section A, section B was trying to look at it outside the school, right? So you have all such problems. So where do you decide your dispute? Now, if in the second example, bottle making example, let's say I have my bottle manufacturing unit in Visakhapatnam. You are sending raw materials from your place, let's say somewhere in Delhi. Now we have an agreement. Now going with the CPC idea, you may file a suit in Visakhapatnam or Delhi or wherever the cause of action arises, or my unit is somewhere, so you have habitual residence and all that coming into picture. So you can get to choose the court, or there are principles to ascertain jurisdiction. But when it goes to arbitration, there is an arbitrator to decide, but you want somebody to supervise. So in such a situation, how do you get the court? That is where you have the seat and the venue. Are we okay so far as to why should we bother about seat and venue? Any questions? Friends, any questions? No questions? Can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. So why should we look at the seat and the venue, or for that matter, aren't seat and venue the same? Or why are we using seat and venue in different terms? What does the Indian Arbitration Act say? If you carefully look at the Indian Arbitration Act, the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, there's a reference to the idea of place of arbitration. So you'd find it in Chapter 5, Conduct of Arbitral Proceedings. Let me read it for you. Section 21, it goes with the title, Place of Arbitration. There are three clauses. Clause 1, the parties are free to agree on the place of arbitration. So section A, section B, while fighting as to who's responsible, who should bear, the expenses. Section A had arranged everything that is there for the internal scenario, including refreshments, drink breaks, or samosas, everything is there. But if the umpire is not there, match will not happen. Now, who will pay the caterer or the bakery, right? Or section B had arranged for every other thing, maybe a mic set, speakers, or maybe a small DJ band for the break in between. So you have all such problems that come in. So you have various layers of dispute, but parties are free to agree. If you want to go for arbitration, parties are free to agree for a place of arbitration. So far, so good. Now, does place mean wherever we sit and discuss? Or for that matter, let's say maybe the second example, bottle manufacturing. I have a company in Visakhapatnam, you have a company in Delhi. So considering the long distance, we had agreed, okay, boss, I'll come down to Bhopal, you also come down to Bhopal, it is midway. or maybe Raipur, whichever is midway, because both of them are situated in the center of the country. Bhopal is in Madhya Pradesh, Raipur is in Chhattisgarh, so midway kind of an idea. So it asked me to come down, or you will also come down. So if we get to discuss, and there is an arbitrator appointed, where should I go for an interim order, or you go for an interim order? The example that I've given is I'm planning to sell off my business. So you should go to the court to restrain me to get an interim relief. So will it be the Delhi court, or the Visakhapatnam court, or Bhopal court? Any ideas? Any ideas, people? Any guesses or suggestions? Let's say that the company CEO of X raw materials walks to your office and asks, where should we file a case? What will be your answer? Visakhapatnam, Delhi, or Bhopal? So it's a tricky question to answer, right? Because if we apply the principles of CPC, all three may turn out to be something that is good. But remember, arbitration happens on the basis of some wonderful principles like party autonomy, right? Fair treatment, non-interference, right? So parties had agreed to sit at some place, get it amicably settled, and it is for that reason we don't apply procedural law as it is in certain situations. Parties can get to choose what is the governing law. For example, in international commercial arbitration, they can determine what is the governing law for the agreement. So basing on that, here obligations change. So determining governing law is one, but where do you sit and where do you get things decided is another. Now, okay, you had identified it to be Bhopal, but can you go to Bhopal's court? Does the Bhopal court, or Madhya Pradesh High Court, if it has original jurisdiction, or the Delhi High Court, we very well know that it has original civil jurisdiction. Can you file a Section 9 petition there seeking an interim relief, or a Section 17 for that matter? So you have such questions that had brought before the court time and again. So what is venue and what is seat? Does the Indian law talk about seat and venue? Like I said, Section 20 talk about place of arbitration. Clause 1, parties are free to agree on the place of arbitration. Clause 2, failing any agreement referred to in subsection 1, the place of arbitration shall be determined by the arbitral tribunal having regard to the circumstances of the case, including the convenience of the parties. If you and me don't agree, the arbitration tribunal may decide. Notwithstanding 1 and 2, the arbitration tribunal may, unless otherwise agreed by the parties, meet at any place it considers appropriate for consultation among its members, for hearing witnesses, experts of the parties, or for inspection of the documents, goods, or other property. So if you can see, there is a difference, or the color, the term place of arbitration that is there in Section 2 may be different from Section 3, right? Subsection 2 and subsection 3, you have different ideas that are flowing here. Place of arbitration shall be determined by the tribunal considering the circumstances, and it can meet at any place. That's what 20 clause 3 says. So you have in the international idea, the ancestral model law maybe to be brought into the fore, you have things like seat and venue that are used. If you had picked up any case on arbitration, the recent one, I think Justice Nariman had delivered a decision as a part of a 3-judge bench in April. That turns out to be one strategic developments on the arbitration side. you'd make some kind of reference to these two terms, seat and venue. So like I said, venue is the geographical place. You may sit at a place that is convenient, but seat is something that binds the arbitration to a court. Now, can parties by agreement choose which court they can go for? Can parties by mutual agreement cast jurisdiction upon a court? If that is the scenario, why do we have CPC? But the problem is you have arbitration, which is a part of alternate dispute settlement, right? We are talking about resolution of disputes in amicable manner. So we had agreed that, okay, this is how we go. Or this will be the person who will decide. Okay, so if you're not agreed with one person, you may get 3 people, or you will apply to the concerned court, and that court will appoint an arbitrator. So we need to understand that it is way too much important to identify the link that is there with the court. Appointment, Supreme Court or High Court, depending upon what is the kind of arbitration that is there. But interim relief, which court? If there are questions like, can 2 Indian parties have arbitration in London? Is it permissible under the Arbitration Conciliation Act 1996? So let's say 1 Indian party, 1 American party having it in Singapore is okay, but 2 Indian parties, something like bottle manufacturing unit of Visakhapatnam versus raw material supplying unit of Delhi. Can we have it somewhere in, let's say, maybe, boss, let's decide this in a easy manner. Let's go to Las Vegas, sit and get things decided there. Can we get our arbitration be geographically located some other place? Maybe, or may not be. Or you have place that is okay, but which court has jurisdiction if an interim relief is to be sought in? Which court? Should I go to American court if it is happening in Las Vegas, or is it any other court? So you have all such questions that had occurred before various courts in various ideas. See, we understand that you want to challenge the order, right? That is 35, or challenge the award or the order 34, 37. You have serious concerns. Which court? The seat talks about the situs of arbitration. It has been anchored to that place. So it takes you the curial law or lex arbitrari or even procedural law governing the arbitration, and thereby determines the court. Like you have somebody supervising the section A, section B dispute. So you have one court that is earmarked. So the curious idea that happens here is, if we say that by agreement it has been agreed upon beforehand that it will be in Bhopal, and if Bhopal courts get jurisdiction by virtue of section 20, remember the whole idea of jurisdiction under CPC, maybe 15 to 20 habitual residents or citers of the property or cause of action. Nothing had happened in Bhopal, but still, by virtue of section 20, if you get to interpret Bhopal as the seat, I'm giving you a very crude example. The Bhopal court has jurisdiction, but can you expect that in an ordinary civil proceeding? Generally, it is not possible. You file a case, it will be dismissed for lack of. It will be dismissed for the lack of jurisdiction. Are we okay so far? Any questions? Now, what are the cases that I'm referring to? I'm happy to share. Do we have a chat box? Chat box, chat box.
Yes, sir. It's on the main
Yeah.
screen. There's a show conversation.
Yeah. I just sent you a link of Madras High Court decision. This was delivered in March. What is interesting for me is pages 14 to 18. Kudos to the judge. He made the job of understanding what are the precedents on this part. Prashant sir, can I get to share my screen, sir?
Yes, sir. Just a second. I'll do that.
Yeah, sure.
I
I'm sorry.
will make you.
I said it is
No,
informal, but I had to change. I'm very sorry.
no issues, sir. So just did.
Yeah.
You're the
So,
presenter now.
I hope the screen is visible.
It is, sir. It is.
This is the case. Bala Pritam Guest House versus My Preferred Transformation and Hospitality. So I'm not concerned with what happened here, or is it still the position, because I was talking about the April decision, but what was the position till January or March? This judge made a wonderful idea. So before let me read what the judge wrote. Before giving my finding on the issue on hand, I have extracted in a tabular form judgments of Honorable Supreme Court, the bench thread, the clause in question, the ratio laid down of the Delhi High Court, which have considered the issue of seat, place, and venue. Now, why am I so much bothered about it? The clause in question. If you are somebody who's advising a party, or if you are vetting a contract, the draft contract which contains an arbitration clause, please keep a close set of eyes and review it at least twice in the background of what is the impact that it can have on the seat and the venue, right? You may say that arbitration will take place in Delhi, but is it geographical location, or you're trying to say that Delhi courts have supervisory jurisdiction? Are you getting it? Maybe section A, section B dispute. The principal said any teacher versus it has been marked that the physical director or the physical education teacher will look into. So what is written in the clause has a lot to do with how do you determine the seat, basically the court which has jurisdiction, the supervisory jurisdiction. So the cases that are referred is Kaiser Aluminium, that is also referred as the Balco case, Bharat Aluminium case. Then the Indus Mobile, which also refers to Enron. Sorry, Energycon. Then you have Roger Shashaha, then Hardy Exploration, then Brahmani Pellets. These are the 5 that had happened before this case, and it was finally took a very different turn in BGS Soma versus NHPC. After this, you have another case, that is Inox case, right? Inox versus I think it is GAFC. So let's see what did the judge try to indicate here. The 2012 case Balco, it's a constitutional bench. What is the arbitration clause in the scenario? Any dispute relating to the agreement shall be settled by arbitration. That's what we generally write. No, all disputes concerning this agreement will be settled by arbitration in Delhi, or we write something like that. Pursuant to English law, the arbitration proceedings would be at London. Now, boss, if you are saying English law, and if you are saying that it would be London, which court are you hinting at? Are you saying London as something like, boss, yes, it's a good place to be, we can go happily sit down and discuss things? Are you talking about geographical advantage, or are you trying to indicate something more than that? Is it just identified as a place for you to sit and discuss, or are you trying to think beyond that? Any ideas, any guesses? Any guesses, people? No guesses? Okay, we'll come to it at a later point of time. But what was said in relation to section 20? We spoke of place, right? Section 20 states parties are free to agree to any place or seat for arbitration in India. The court had brought in the term seat, which is per se not directly there. You won't find it in section 20. Remember, I was telling you or reading it out. Parties are free to choose the place of arbitration. Now, section 20 clause 1, you got seat idea coming into picture. Section 20 clause 2 authorizes the tribunal to decide place or seat. So 20 clause 1, 20 clause 2, place is in the idea of seat. 20 clause 3 enables the tribunal to meet at any place for conducting hearings, examining witnesses. Court holds where arbitration takes place, assumes supervisory jurisdiction. But remember, there's a catch here. The learned judges, however, hold that both place where the seat of arbitration was situated and place where subject matter of arbitration was situated would acquire jurisdiction, which means to say more than one court. There are, maybe if I go back to section A, section B, it is not just the PD, you have one more, right? You can go either to the PD or to somebody to get the dispute, which is being resolved to be supervised for an interim relief. So we're talking about concurrent jurisdiction coming up. You have more than one forum. Then came the Indus Mobile division bench, arbitration to be conducted at Mumbai. All disputes relating to the agreement are subject to jurisdiction of Mumbai. Now, look at here. Pursuant to English law, proceedings will be conducted in London. Now, there is a different language that is used here. Arbitration to be conducted in Mumbai. Disputes relating to the agreement are subject to jurisdiction of Mumbai. There is something more that is said here. There, the court opined, in fact, held the ratio is once the seat is designated, it is akin to exclusive jurisdiction clause, and only Mumbai courts would have supervisory jurisdiction over arbitration in that case. So if there is a Ahmedabad party and there is a Pune party, it has been agreed upon with the clause that arbitration to be conducted in Mumbai and it is subject to jurisdiction of Mumbai. You cannot file a case in Pune or seek interim relief in Pune or Ahmedabad because you are bound by the clause, right? You had given exclusive jurisdiction. If you compare it with Balco, we are talking about competent jurisdiction, right? Are we okay so far? Can I go to the next case? The Rosa Saha versus Mukesh Kumar Sharma. Division bench, the clause is something like this. Venue of arbitration is London. Governing law of the agreement is laws of India. Like I said, we are talking about party autonomy, non-interference. You get to decide what is applicable for you. So venue is London. Law governing it is Indian law. So what did the court say in relation to the ratio? Courts in India have no supervisory jurisdiction over the arbitration as the seat is designated at London. Even though you are using Indian law, let's say if it is a contractual dispute, now whether it is a breach or not, you have to determine as per Indian Contract Act principles. You want an interim relief, you have to use the seat based jurisdiction idea, which happens to be courts in London, but not an Indian court. Are we okay? See, if you carefully see, when I was talking about the second case, I took, I intentionally took two Indian cities name, and the third is also an Indian city. Ahmedabad party, Pune party, Mumbai party. As far as it is in India, we don't have, all that that troubles us is the court, right? Which court? But when it comes to this idea, if you look at exclusive jurisdiction in application, you understand that, okay, law is India, but the court is the London court. So that is the impact that it has, the seat idea. Then the Hardy exploration case of 2019. Contract to be governed by Indian laws arbitral proceedings to be conducted as per UNCITRAL model law and venue at Kuala Lumpur unless otherwise agreed. So you have different things that are, because in all these cases, let me take you to the first or the second paragraph. The judge writes, despite the definitive pronouncement of the terms like place, seat, venue by the Honorable Supreme Court in various cases, innovative and incisive arguments continue to engage both the bench and the bar. Lawyers' creativity, lawyers' ingenuity knows no bounds is what a lot of people say. For that matter, if you have come across a book called Learning the Law by Glanville Williams, there is one wonderful reference that is made there. I know I'm digressing, but still I want to impress upon as to how should you look at the words that are there. So one day, a student, a small kid, broke a window in the classroom. So the teacher wrote a letter and sent it to the father. The father happens to be a lawyer, so he wrote his defense. Can you guess as to what is the defense? Anyone? Any guess? I'm not asking arbitration. The father, who is a lawyer, writing defense to the teacher's letter that his ward broke the window. Any guesses as to what can be the defense? Can you help the lawyer to write the defense? Anyone? It goes something like this. Number one, the window in the class is not broken, right? Alternatively, if the window in the class has been broken, it is not by my student, my son. Number three, alternatively, if you say that the window is broken by my son, I say that there is no window in the classroom. So lawyer's creativity knows no limitations. Kindly understand ingenuity. So how do we interpret things? Now, is the window in the classroom or on the wall, or is it outside the classroom, or is it on the inner part of the wall or the outer part of the? You have all such arguments that would come in. Or if you want clarity on this, if you had tried to look at any of the reply notices or written statements in any civil case, you would find, for example, let's say a notice was sent to you or for a money suit. You, Mr. So-and-so, son or daughter of so-and-so, residing at so-and-so, had taken a loan of so-and-so rupees at a X% interest from Mr. So-and-so. We get all that. So the reply goes something like this. The reply notice we had seen. I deny that I had taken any loan from Mr. So-and-so, or the interest is. You would deny. There are few ideas. People accuse that please don't teach students to deny everything. It comes out in a very grave manner. So you have to reply in a very constructive and strategic manner. But the idea, if you look at any old case, there will be something that is there in the notice. The reply notice denies it. The plaint says something, the written statement would deny it. So defense lawyer's creativity knows no limitation is what I understand. It is ingenious, right? That's where all people say that all great lawyers are generally voracious readers and good writers, right? So the more you read, the easier it will be. And kindly understand, the more words you put into the arbitration clause, the more problem that it may generate. To give some clarity, you may add, okay, this is so, this is so, this is so, but still there is some problem. For example, I presume all of you would have studied jurisprudence. Now, every time somebody is trying to define law, there are questions, there are criticisms on that definition, right? For example, Austin says, command of the sovereign backed by sanction is law. Then somebody would criticize it. No, not all laws are commands. For example, criminal law may be command backed by sanction, but what happens to contract law? Well, somebody would say, like Oliver Wendell Holmes, for a bad man, law is not what is there in the statute book, but what the court at so and so place decides. So even on that realistic scenario, there are criticisms. So the more words you put in, there is more problem. So it is in that context I was trying to emphasize upon what is there. It is in that scenario this judgment turns out to be highly noteworthy. The effort that the judge had put in is commendable. So coming back to harder explanation, the ratio is when place agreed upon assumes the status of seat, place and seat are interchangeable. You can use it as place or seat. When place used with condition precedent, then the condition has to be fulfilled for the place to become equivalent to seat. Now, what is going on here? Remember, over here we said section 20 clause 1, 20 clause 2, place or seat, you can use it. But when there is a condition precedent, you cannot per se say that place is the seat. What is the condition precedent that is given here? Venue is Kuala Lumpur, geographically there, unless otherwise agreed. So if you can bring in something that says, okay, Kuala Lumpur maybe, but we want Indian law as applicable, maybe Indian court. So venue is Kuala Lumpur, but the seat happens out to be something different. So you may feel that was, let's say, if I receive a wedding invitation, it shows venue. Now I go there, then I get a seat to sit. But that is not the idea. That's where language takes a very different color when it comes to law. Then the Brahmani River Pillets case. Again, a division bench. Arbitration to be under Indian Arbitration Conciliation Act, and the venue of the arbitration shall be Bhubaneswar, right? Relying on Balco, Enercon, that's the Enercon was Reliance if I'm not wrong. The learned judges held that the venue is fixed at Bhubaneswar. All other courts are excluded, since by choosing an exclusive venue, the parties intended to exclude all other courts. And just because, we said here, unless otherwise agreed, there is a condition precedent. No, the court said non-use of words like exclusive jurisdiction or only, alone, exclusive does not make a material difference. It is Arbitration Conciliation Act of India and venue is Bhubaneswar, hence the seat. Since they did not determine the seat, it is Bhubaneswar. Coming to the last in the chain before INOX, the 2020 case, BGS, SGS, Soma, JV versus NHPV. 3-judge bench. In case of Indian contractor dispute, in case of Indian contractor, disputes to be settled in accordance with Arbitration Conciliation Act. In case of a foreign contractor, dispute to be settled in accordance with Arbitration Conciliation Act read with ancestral law. Arbitration proceedings shall be held at New Delhi or Faridabad. The expression shall be held indicates the venue to be seat. In this case, arbitration could be held in New Delhi or Faridabad. Since the parties had filed appeals at New Delhi and the award was signed at New Delhi, the parties have chosen New Delhi as the seat and the courts at Delhi alone have the jurisdiction. So this is the position till the Soma case. Now then came the INOX case. I think we are running short of time. There is a interesting blog I came across in Indian corporate law blog, that is Cyril Amachan Mangaldas blog. So there is detailed analysis of the Inox case. So you can read it there. But going back to the idea, the first law said was when you see it, a Balco idea, place of arbitration can be used interchangeably. Then came Reliance and Enercon, Indus. I'm very sorry, I'm getting confused with Enron and Enercon. I stand corrected, it is Enercon. So the court said, in different situations, once the seat of arbitration has been fixed in India, it would be in the nature of exclusive jurisdiction to exercise supervisory powers over arbitration. Now, how do you determine it is the serious concern. Now, like I said, if you remember the chart that I had shown, Balco, the Kaiser Aluminium, is a constitution bench, that is 5-judge bench. Then you have 3-judge and 2-judge benches that are coming up. So a few people say, the Guru Mantra is paragraph 96 of Balco, which still holds good because Supreme Court did not overrule it. It would have said this way or that way, or the Shoshara principle, or Antrix Corporation, wherein the Delhi High Court said something. Remember, Delhi High Court is a High Court. Supreme Court, law laid down by Supreme Court is binding on all the courts in India, including the High Court. So in Antrix Corporation, there is a deviation from the Indus Mobile or Enercon that I had given you after Balco. I'm just trying to paraphrase things. That's all, nothing more than that. The Delhi High Court, after looking at various other high courts, said that cause of action may give rise to jurisdiction, notwithstanding the seat of arbitration. So this was because of paragraph 96 of Balco. Like I said, it is the Guru Mantra to an extent. Now, you have a lot of confusion as to what is the seat, what is the venue, how do you determine place. So you have all such ideas. I'm very sorry I couldn't cover Inox case, but all I can tell you is it tried to cover things, but there is one other important development that I wanted to share. The Law Commission report, I think it is 246, considering all the problems that were there from Balco to Hardy exploration, you need clarity. Every time different high courts are taking different ideas. You have only exclusive jurisdiction with one court versus concurrent jurisdiction with more than one court. So with let's look at the practicality. I live in Visakhapatnam in the second example, right? You are in Delhi. Now, arbitration, we had agreed it to be Delhi, for practical reasons. But considering all that, if we have more than one courts, right, I may file an interim, a suit for interim relief against an arbitration proceeding in Visakhapatnam. You, being in Delhi, have to engage somebody to appear in a remote location, right? Visakhapatnam doesn't have a high court. Right? If you come by train, it will take you 36 hours from Delhi. Now consider what happens. Maybe you are trying to do some organic products, right? So you are in agreement with one Uttarakhand-based small company, right? You market it all over the country, but your head office is based out in Mumbai. Now, if your arbitration clause, which gives you the seat, is not clear, or is it not properly structured, if you don't have exclusive jurisdiction to one forum, the other party may ask you to come down to Uttarakhand by filing a case there. So that's where you have serious concern. So the 246 report of the Law Commission tried to recommend for substitution of the term place in section 20, wherever place is appearing as needed. Maybe Clause 1 and Clause 2 as seat, Clause 3 as venue. Once you identify seat and venue, it will be easier to determine what is the court, what is the forum, and thereby which court has supervisory jurisdiction. I think I should stop here. I'm going more than 1 hour. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take it.
So, if I may, I have a question.
Sure, sir.
So, sir, like I am not really well versed in arbitration laws. Not really my area. Never tried that. But gave the paper, went away with the subject in college. That's it. But my question is that ADR initially was the idea behind ADR was to reduce the cost of litigation and the time which you get to visit in the court or in ordinary litigation. But as and when we are seeing, especially institutional arbitration right now, and arbitration itself, so the cost of initiating arbitration is much more than cost of initiating litigation. So are we really on the right track when we talk about arbitration?
I mean, it's a 2-point scenario, sir. We look at cost, the financial cost, but you should also look at economic cost. Right. In economics, we are generally taught about something called as opportunity cost. With the resources that you have, you would have done something, but you're doing it. So you should also account for it. Now, the cost that we may feel, arbitration, subject to correction, it may be costly. But if you get a remedy in 3 years, then a civil dispute that is going on for years together. For example, there is a recent decision of the Supreme Court on foreclosure and redemption of mortgage, not arbitration. This is something that started in some civil court in 1960s or 70s. Very recently the court did. So you have different levels that. So that's the first pointer or the first direction that I want to indicate. The second idea is you have a challenge, you would challenge the award, you want the award to be set aside. So there at one point of time, there was a criticism on the efficacy of arbitration. So if you are looking at a civil dispute, in the general sense, civil court, or the court of first instance, high court, Supreme Court. Right now, you got arbitration. You'll find court as per the arbitration Conciliation Act section 2. So award you want it to be set aside by section 34 or public policy, you go to the lower court. From there, appeal to the high court. From there, Supreme Court. So you got the fourth step also.
Right. So yes, we can say that vertically it's the litigation which is longer and costlier, but horizontally arbitration gives you the option that
to quote from Falias Nariman, for students, Falias Nariman wrote a 2-volume book, light. If you had missed your arbitration classes, if you read the book, you'll feel like he's teaching you. So name of the book is Harmony Amidst Disharmony. Volume 1 is on domestic. Volume 2 is on international arbitration. It is like he's talking to you. It's more like a teacher teaching you things. So he writes at one place, you have to look at the 1996 Arbitration and Conciliation Act, separate from the earlier arbitration ideas, and the reforms that are suggested, particularly once you have the institutional structure that has been changed. There is an idea to have arbitration Council of India. So you have institutional arbitration which has been streamlined. So you may have timelines that are specified, or for that matter, I think Cyril Amachan Mangaldas, along with I think Vidhi Center for Legal Policy, there was one part of a report which talks about what is the time period that takes in the Indian jurisdiction to get your award enforced. So it seems it takes somewhere around 2,508 dates on a rough estimate. Even if you are talking about faster settlement through arbitration, parties agreed, nobody challenged, but you have to get every other thing to be done. It may take roughly 2,508 odd days. Subject to correction, I have to go back and fall back on Vidhi report on that. And you also have a Dutch report on what is going on with the judiciary. So you have all such ideas that are there, sir. So like I said, I had taught arbitration for infrastructure related ideas, not the core of it. So I can only speak of that part. On the other sides, I'm very sorry. And I'd agreed to this because I was more concerned, because every time I teach a case, it falls back to what has been worded there. For example, if they go something like, the seat of arbitration will be so and so, governing law will be so and so, venue will be determined. But even in such a scenario, once parties are at problems, for example, the first instance that I gave you, Section A, Section B came together to have the sport tournament, but once issues turned bad, they started accusing each other. So even the arbitration is party autonomy, amicable settlement, you have all kinds of interpretations coming up. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, actually. Thank you firstly for this session, sir. Apart from that, sir, apart from explaining the concept of seat and venue in arbitration with so much ease, with the examples you had, the explanation is also an inspiration to faculties like me who have just started to first simplify the law and then reach out to the students. So thank you for that, sir. Sir, I'll this will be the end of the session. Thank you so much, sir. I'm really happy to connect with you.
Just a second. I wanted to share the Supreme Court case, the link of which I forgot. So I had given the Madras High Court, which I had just referred. So the students can use that. Then for a comment on the Inox case, the Serial Amalchan blog, because I couldn't cover it. Then the Supreme Court decision.
Sir, also could you just type in the name of that book by Falius and Nariman?
Sure. Yes. Harmony amidst disharmony. One can read only one book, the domestic idea, or they can go with the international also. And Falius Nariman, being the big name in India, we have to understand that he's a very big name in international arbitration circles also. The William C. Wiss competition has an honorable mention every year to the best teams in his name. So yes, the international circles, his name is way too big. So thank you so much, sir. I stop.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
With your permission, I leave.
Definitely, sir. Thank you, sir.